I am Wole Soyinka, standing on that same Nigerian soil where 40 years ago, what was perhaps the first full-blown civil war in post-colonial Africa took place. The story of the Biafran War can be told through the two main players, General Ojukwu Gowon on the Nigerian Federation side and Odumegwu Ojukwu on the separatist side. For his part, General Gowon rejects any suggestion that he would have willingly embarked on hostilities and points out that it was the Igbo who felt insecure for reasons he acknowledged were valid.
Let's say this, to start off with, the idea of fighting a war, a civil war in Nigeria, was never one's thought or idea when one became head of state. It was the circumstances of the time and as I said, the belligerence of my brother and colleague Emeka Ojukwu at the time. Well, I would give it to him. With what had happened in Nigeria at the time, all the unfortunate killings, especially of Igbos in most parts of Nigeria, especially in the north, and the initial political crisis due to the killing of the various political leaders in the north and some of the senior military officers. Now, all these things probably made for the Igbos to feel very unsafe and unsure of being Nigerians, and they would rather probably have a home of their own. But Ojukwu, in the end, despite all the effort that we tried to make to try and resolve the problem, to reassure, I think he had a different idea. Personally, I think he had a different idea. He wanted to really break up and have a home for the Igbos or Easterners, on their own.
Both Ojukwu and Gowon reflect on the time that they actually met to try and save the country from descending into chaos and civil war. This was the meeting in Aburi, Ghana, in 1966.
We went indeed to Aburi with two different mindsets. You could even see it in the way we appeared. The Nigerian contingent at Aburi, in front of that Federasi lodge, and I saw them there in their flowing robes. And they had become the new Nigerian politicians. I came in jeans and a shirt. Great contrast with my colleagues, that is true. We got in. I had clearly in my mind what I wanted to achieve. I make no bones about it. I wanted greater autonomy for the people of Eastern Nigeria. I am glad that right now, as you and I are talking, we can still summon and get the records of Aburi. And one thing I'm sure will be clear to you, that every word I spoke was chosen to secure for the people of the East, this Eastern Nigeria, greater autonomy.
The agreement was that when we come back, I'm going to make a statement on what we agreed, to do, and then after that, the number of the other governors will then make their statement. Unfortunately, when I came back, I had a very bad fever, and I could not really do what I could have done on the following day. But meanwhile, Ojukwu, when he arrived back in Enugu, he made a statement virtually trying to commit the rest of us to his idea of the meeting, saying that we've agreed to move apart and we've agreed to confederation and all this sort of thing, which I can assure you that was not the agreement. And of course, it was early hours of the morning that one of the governors, Ejo, in Benin, in the Midwest then, rang me and to say that, have I heard what has happened? So I said, no, like what? He said, this is what Ojukwu had said. So I said, but, David, is that exactly what we said? Was that what we said? I said, that is not true. And, as a result of this, I said, well, I don't know what Ojukwu means by this, because he has now, created a situation which is not acceptable to the rest of us. And but he's already given the impression that that was the correct thing.
I chose the words deliberately. I used them deliberately. I'm not going to apologize for that, because I went there for effect. I went there as a leader of a people being massacred to win for them as much freedom as I could. Sometimes I will even use words deliberately that could be ambiguous. But it did not change the fact that this is what we agreed at that time, and the normal interpretation of what we agreed were in line with my position. If Gowon says that he got back to Nigeria and then realized that he sold Nigeria down the garden path, that's his own business. It could have been. I'm not going to apologize for using words that he didn't understand. But what we decided, what I got as a decision from Aburi, were exactly what I interpreted when I got back. And they are still today what any normal person would interpret by reading the records.
It was because Ojukwu had really wanted to break away that I was forced in the end to say that no, that cannot happen. Then, if you remember, immediately after the Aburi meeting, about a month later, trying to see whatever we can do to come closer together. What we receive from the other side is like hijacking, and the first hijacking of any aircraft in the world actually took place in Nigeria. I think this may not either have been noticed, because we had to take the matter up with the Interpol meeting. But this was some of the things that he did. Taking over the post office, the railway stock, etc. Really making sure that there is no federal authority at all. So something had to be done, and at every move that we did, he seemed to be, he got to know about it, and he seemed to be a step ahead.
We must be separate politically. We must have an international voice so that should it ever occur again, we can cry out to the world, and the world to listen, that genocide is being committed, that such hideous crimes are being committed here. And we feel that we should be able to call on the help of the world.
We will defend our sovereignty. We will continue to do what is right. While we have sought peace at Niamey and Addis Ababa, the rebels have acquired more sophisticated arms and increased their activity. Obviously, the federal government must act in time to prevent a sharp deterioration in the military situation. Together with my colleagues in the Supreme Military Council and the armed forces, we have therefore resolved that we must now press on with all our might to defeat the rebels militarily and remove all traces of the tyranny and terror, the rebel regime, from the face of this country.
Look at what's happening today in Iraq. When the U.S. went in, and it's acknowledged by them today, they had no post-war strategy.
That's right.
None whatsoever. They just said, come in, occupy, dictate, and of course, in a morass. But you evolve this no victor, no vanquished. And I was curious, at what stage, was it towards the end of the war that you began to think what happens after? Because by now, towards the end, it was clear that the Biafrans were militarily defeated.
Well, right from the beginning, I know that it is not a war against the Igbos. So there was no intention of, say, fighting to just defeat the Igbos and to humiliate them. But I saw it more as a fight between, brothers. Yes, you can fight, but you can then, if you are true brothers, in the end, make it up. Mm-hmm. So right from the beginning, I think the idea of ensuring that it is not a punitive action against the people, we had hoped that in the end, we'll be able to sit back and look back and even joke about it.
He certainly thought the slogan, "No victor, no vanquished," put him in line, sort of in the same, not Washington, but Lincoln. In America, he was one of the magnanimous victors of our civilization. Did Gowon, when he was saying it, really understand what it meant? No victor, no vanquished. Has he up till today, has he thought back how much did he do to make the victor not a victor? On the other side, we, the vanquished, certainly have so many steps of Nigeria that remind us that we are vanquished.
I meant every word of it. Every word of it. I was really convinced that the only way to assure both sides is to make a statement like that. No victor, no vanquish, but victory for Nigeria and for common sense and for humanity. Now, those were the end, because it at least stopped the suffering, the killings, and now, of course, we know that then we have a very important thing to get down to reconcile ourselves.
That's why I wanted to know how early that slogan, that was a reality for you, and how early you really, even during the war, saw this as the end to which these violent means must be led. But it doesn't mean that there were no atrocities. I still remember what happened in Asaba, very well documented,
absolutely.
and so on.
I'm sure you probably had what I said years later when I visited Asaba at the palace. These were some of the sort of things that happened, and the commander is not informed. And I felt so bad that years later, when the opportunity presented itself, I had to say that now I have learned only of recent, learned of what had happened, and I could not honestly believe that such a thing could have been done by federal forces. Certainly, such a thing should not have happened, but it did happen, and I had to really make a public apology that was certainly not my order. It was unfortunate. And but they have to had to forgive, and I think this is what I think all Nigerians have to learn, to forgive one another and to put the past behind the best they can.
It is easy to say this should never have happened, that it was preventable from the beginning. Historians will always indulge in tidy theories, but ultimately, every single arena of civil war is virtually a unique planet where the combatants who appeared to speak the same language only yesterday are suddenly bereft of a common tongue. The only language that remains common to both is that of human suffering, wastage, and destruction. They may still cohabit, but a faith in community, the building block for the so-called nation-state, is lost forever. That, for me, remains the real tragedy of civil conflict.